Greetings, it is I, Tantus Naravan Dracovin, Lord and Emperor of the Dracovin Empire, and welcome. Today we're continuing our discussion on EARTHDAWN. Now, last time we were talking about your dice checks. I'm going to dive more into information about said dice check. Now, a dice check, it usually isn't just success or failure. I've rolled it, maybe I've met my difficulty, maybe I haven't. There are exceptions to this. There's a varying degree of success. You can have a pathetic result, a poor result, an average result, a good result, an excellent result, or an extraordinary result. There is a chart in the book that says whatever difficulty it is, what number you meet to get these said results. Effectively, average result would be meeting your difficulty. Poor or pathetic would be below your difficulty. Good, exceptional, or excellent, above your difficulty. You have to think of a pathetic result as so bad, you're getting some other negative side effect as a result of failing this check so terribly. It will be determined by your GM, whether it's appropriate or you're actually going to earn it. Sometimes an ability or talent, something of the similar, will say what happens if you get a pathetic result. It will let you know. The GM can use that, or come up with their own way of screwing you over for rolling so badly. Poor result is just a failure. It's a little better off. You're still failing, but at least you're not failing miserably. Of course, average is being successful. Good is you're marginally successful. You're doing a little better, and of course, excellent and extraordinary, you're getting above there. And whether at that point in time we're getting to excellent or extraordinary, you get something else from being so successful at the check is going to be entirely up to GM and circumstances. Your game master will determine if circumstances say, like, whatever I'm doing it so great will give me an additional bonus that I wouldn't have gotten before, that it makes it even more awesome than I would have had regardless. So let's talk about time in EARTHDAWN. Time is, of course, measured in days, which are 24 hours, 7 days in a week. A month is 30 days, 12 months to a year. There is, of course, a 5-day adjustment period in the middle of the year. That is a special kind of time period to give it 365 days. Now, there is, of course, another exception. If you're in the Dracovin Empire, they have a 5-day week instead of a 7-day week, which is the general empire/group that your players will be starting out on anyway. Now, if anything mentions a round is 6 seconds, and a round is usually mentioned a lot of times during combat, that you have combat rounds going on. Now, distances and weights, they use inches, feet, miles, pounds. The system that we use here in America, though they do give conversions for metric. If you want to use metric, or you yourself are from a country that uses metric, go ahead and look. There's a conversion chart that will tell you how to convert any of these measurements over to the metric system for using it in your EARTHDAWN games. Now let's talk about what is generally some of the philosophical and important information that you're going to have to know about in EARTHDAWN. The first, of course, is the 12 passions. This is what people worship. They worship the 12 passions. They're the embodiment of wills, beliefs, hopes that exist in the world itself. And the thing is, though people have different beliefs in them and what they are, and if they are really divine sources, they actually do exist. They actually do travel about the world doing good. And the thing is, they can't be everywhere, though. That's when we come into questors. Questors are people that they give reverence to, of course, all 12 of the passions, but they specifically serve one of the passions and do quests for them. So effectively, questor is a specific servant of one of the 12 passions and does their will about in the world in places that they cannot be. So moving on from the general religious system, we talk about magic. Magic's an important part of this world. Magic is everywhere. It is in everything. A hero will wield a magic of a weapon named by them. Great airships fly in the sky, fueled by magic. There are buildings and structures that defy the very laws of physics themselves, fueled by magic. Magic is the ever-present part of EARTHDAWN. When we talk about magic, we have to talk about names. There is power in names in EARTHDAWN. Everything that has a name has had power given into it, but can also have power taken from it, controlled from it. Beings have names. Naming races, as they're called, are the basic races of EARTHDAWN, are those that give names to things and therefore empower those things. The races of EARTHDAWN that I will talk about later, the naming races, aren't the only ones. Most people agree that dragons have the power to name things. It's just that they are so ancient and so few in numbers, they aren't looked upon the same way as the other races. But just know that the power of a name in something is giving it strength, but also giving it that people can use that name against it. When we talk about naming, though, we have to move into patterns. Patterns are the patterns of magic, the energy signature of everything. Every living thing, every object has a pattern in the world that is recognizable through the magical energies that flow through it. Giving it a name not only empowers it, but gives it the ability to be manipulated. Effectively, you name something and you give the ability to manipulate the pattern itself and use it in a way that you see necessary as not only the one that possibly named it, or one that has knowledge of the name of it. Now, this is some very heavy philosophical stuff that really deals with the philosophy of EARTHDAWN. You're not going to really have to know a lot about that. You might need to know the basics of it, sort of what I've gone over. You can read through the section if you want to get a better idea of what this all means, but just have an idea that there are patterns of magic in everything, and there's power in naming things. Now, there are other planes of existence. There are other worlds. These places can only be accessed through magic, and they are known as the Nether spheres. Of course, horrors come from one of these Nether spheres. There are other more strange and alien other Nether spheres that perhaps very few have traveled to. There are some basic ones that are very important to know about. There's the 5 elemental Nether spheres. These are ones that you wouldn't be able to travel to, and not only unless you had magic, but you couldn't really survive there unless you had magic, because they are earth, fire, air, water, and wood. The 5 elements of EARTHDAWN. Now, extending from this and continuing and speaking about magic is blood magic. Blood magic is using the life force of a living being in order to fuel the magic they are using. It can be detrimental to the health of whatever is fueling it. It can cause their death. It oftentimes is much more powerful than your average magic because it's being fueled upon by the very essence of something's being. It takes 2 forms. Blood magic takes the form of life magic. This means that someone is giving up just a tiniest chunk of their life force, of their essence, of their being, in order to use a powerful magical ability and effect upon the world. There's also death magic. Death magic is the more extreme case. It oftentimes causes the death of the user of the blood magic, or the death of a participant that may or may not be willingly or voluntarily giving up their life essence in order to fuel this magic. Effectively, you have to use the life of some kind of creature, whether willing or unwilling, in order to fuel death magic and to create very powerful rituals and effects, even more so than life magic would be, even more so than definitely normal magic would be. So, that's it for this time. I finished up talking about the basics of the different types of tests and talked about the degree of success. Then I moved into talking about some of the basics philosophy of EARTHDAWN with naming and pattern. I of course mentioned time, distance, and measurements, and I finished up diving farther into magic itself with talking about the other planes of existence and of course blood magic. In the next episode I will talk about horrors and move into talking about the naming races. So if you have any questions, comments, anything you want to say, anything you think I left out, please leave in the comments below. Please like, share, subscribe, show support the channel, the Empire, and the work I do. And until the next time, I bid you farewell.